The United States and Japan have a unique relationship, as do most countries that have been at war with one another. While the US and Japan continue to work on building relationships through economic, military, political, and social areas, they sometimes have different positions on all of the above. Some of this is based on wanting to work towards common goals for each country, while at other times they work towards improving each country's position independently.
Article 9 was the clause America wrote into Japan's post-war constitution that restricts them from building a military any larger than it needs for the self-defense of its immediate geographic area. The Treaty of Mutual Cooperation and Security was between the United States and Japan. It arranged Japan's dependence on the United States for its defense. For the first time since World War II, Japan could soon officially have first strike capabilities against potential threats and be allowed to engage in collective self-defense. On October 3rd, United States Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel and Secretary of State John Kerry met with their Japanese counterparts in Tokyo to discuss their two-nation security pact. The Japanese said they'll foot a $3.1 billion bill to help move 9,000 American troops out of Okinawa. Japan wants to break free of the United States military, and Tokyo's true purpose for the conference was to work toward expanding its own military role.
Japan and the United States have been on good terms and share similar views on principles. They have a firm and active relationship. The United States considers Japan to be their closest allies and partners. Japan has also shown consistent support in return. The United States received $5 billion from the Japanese government in order to ensure the United States' presence. Recently, Japan and the United States have agreed to expand their security alliance. The United States has also agreed to broaden Japan's role while trying to make sure that Americans remain a dominant presence.
The U.S.-Japan economic relationship is strong and mutually advantageous. U.S. economic relationships with Japan are mainly grounded in its reliance on Japan as a critical ally. Japan and the U.S. are closely connected through capital investments. U.S. Congress plays a critical role in shaping the U.S. economic policy towards Japan, as Congress must approve all trade agreements with Japan. Two recent economic crises that affected the U.S.-Japan economic relationship are the global financial crisis and the 2011 earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear accidents in Japan. Japan's Prime Minister Abe made economic growth and elimination of deflation a priority. Japanese bilateral trade has become stagnant over the past 2 decades due to a weak Japanese economy. Emergence of China and other Asian nations impacted the U.S. and Japan's trade. U.S. imports from Japan are concentrated within 3 main categories: passenger car and parts, computers, and electronic audio-video components. U.S.-Japan trade and services have increased on the U.S. import side. U.S. exports service Japan in the form of travel services, passenger fares, royalties, and licensing fees.
Japan is a constitutional monarchy. A monarch acts as head of state within constitutional guidelines. The Ministry of Justice has dealt with over 300,000 human rights issues during the year 2003. Many of these issues were resolved in courts. Article 14 of the Japanese Constitution guarantees equality between genders. However, many issues have been brought up regarding women being in the workplace. After World War II, Japanese women were seen as housewives who were meant to stay at home and care for their children. But recently, jobs with women have increased significantly through the years of 1980 through 1990. Today, statistics show that women are working the same, if not more, as men.
In researching the Asian pivot as it relates directly to the U.S. and Japan, we came to the conclusion that China is the biggest influence on how the U.S. and Japan will act and react to each other's internal policies over the next 10 to 15 years. From a military point of view, the U.S. will continue to rely on Japan as a strong ally and buffer zone between itself and China. As China builds a larger military force, the Japanese have agreed to long-term support of the U.S. military presence in their country. On trade, Japan will continue to grow their trade with East Asian countries, but auto and electric goods will be a major source of Japanese trade to the U.S. China has replaced Japan as the world's second largest economy and may surpass the US as the world's largest economy in a matter of years. Finally, the US and Japan's social values on human rights and principles should continue to run parallel tracks with each sharing similar viewpoints on most issues. Both societies should continue to become more liberal in their stand on social matters, while China will continue to lag in that area since it has a more closed-minded society and government.